Silicon Valley dominates the popular narrative around technology innovation. The funding headlines, the founder mythology, the product launches that trend globally within hours. But in one specific and highly consequential sector, financial technology, a quieter and arguably more structurally durable innovation story has been unfolding in the United Kingdom. This video breaks down the regulatory innovation behind UK fintech's global position, why it matters more than most product-level comparisons, and what founders anywhere can learn from it. The story does not start with a product. It starts with a regulatory structure, the regulatory sandbox, pioneered by the UK's Financial Conduct Authority. The concept, while simple to describe, was genuinely novel at the time of its introduction. It allows fintech startups to test new financial products with real customers, under close and active regulatory supervision, before those products are required to meet the full weight of standard financial compliance law that would normally apply to an established financial institution. This mattered because financial services is one of the most heavily regulated sectors in any economy, for good reason. Consumer protection, systemic stability, and anti-fraud safeguards are not optional extras. But that same regulatory weight has historically made it extremely difficult for early-stage companies to iterate quickly on genuinely new financial infrastructure, whether that's open banking APIs, novel payment rails, or new lending models, without either being crushed by premature compliance costs designed for large incumbent institutions or operating in a legally ambiguous gray zone that scares off enterprise partners and serious investors. The Sandbox model solved this by giving regulators direct visibility into how new products behave in the real world, while giving startups room to prove out genuinely new infrastructure under active supervision rather than either extreme. This single structural choice has had an outsized effect well beyond the UK's own borders. Financial regulators in dozens of other countries have since studied and adapted versions of the UK's Sandbox model for their own markets. This matters directly for UK-born fintech companies. Because these companies were built from inception around a model of active, constructive engagement with regulators rather than adversarial avoidance, they often have a smoother path to expanding into markets that have since adopted similar sandbox frameworks, compared to competitors built in more fragmented or adversarial regulatory environments. The contrast with the United States is instructive here, not as criticism but as a structural comparison. US fintech companies have historically had to navigate a fragmented state-by-state regulatory landscape for licensing, money transmission authority, and banking partnerships, a genuinely more complex problem to solve even before a company considers expanding beyond its home market. This is not a reflection of talent or ambition. It reflects a different starting regulatory architecture. The effects of this structural advantage show up in metrics analysts track closely. UK fintech firms have consistently expanded internationally at a scale disproportionate to the size of the UK's own domestic market. Open banking adoption is a particularly clear example. The UK implemented open banking, the standard that allows consumers to securely share their financial data across providers, enabling an entire category of new financial products, as a coordinated, mandated national standard years before most comparable markets attempted anything similar at that scale. That gave UK fintech companies a live testing ground for products dependent on that infrastructure well ahead of competitors in markets still working through fragmented or voluntary approaches to the same underlying capability. Cross-border payment infrastructure tells a similar story. UK-built payment rails and compliance frameworks have frequently become templates that other markets adapt, rather than the other way around. None of this is meant to suggest Silicon Valley is not producing genuine fintech innovation at the product and capital level. It clearly is, and the US remains the largest single fintech market in the world by most measures. But the UK case demonstrates something founders and operators across every sector, not just financial technology, should internalize. Innovation is not purely a product story or a capital story. Sometimes the most durable competitive advantage available to a company is structural, building inside a regulatory environment specifically designed to let companies iterate quickly while remaining compliant, rather than treating regulation purely as friction to be minimized, delayed, or avoided. For founders building in fintech or in any other heavily regulated technology category, healthcare, energy, defense-adjacent technology, the practical question worth asking early is not only where is the capital, but where is the regulatory infrastructure that will let me move fastest, safely, and with the clearest path to eventual international expansion. Increasingly, those turn out to be two different questions with two different answers, and founders who ask both tend to build more durable companies than those who ask only the first. This analysis is for informational and educational purposes, drawn from public reporting, shipping data providers, and government sources. It is not investment, legal, or policy advice. This is the Katakyie Brief. While everyone talks about the military side of geopolitics, we track the boardrooms, the balance sheets, and the breakthroughs that quietly redraw the map. Because the next war for power won't just be fought with weapons, it'll be fought with technology, capital, and ideas. If you want to stay ahead of that shift, subscribe, share this with someone building in the space, and follow for the next brief. Stay sharp, stay ahead. This is the Katakyie Brief.